I wanted to talk about a team that I don't believe I've actually formally talked about on this channel before, and that is the Chicago Bulls. Now, why am I talking about the Chicago Bulls? Did something happen this weekend or this past week that happened with the Bulls? Did they make a big trade, big free agency signing? No, none of that. But I am getting very frustrated with the Bulls. And the reason is because for as long as I can remember, pretty much my whole life, with the exception of a couple of incredible years where they had Derrick Rose, Joakim Noah, a criminally underrated player in my mind in Luol Deng, Ben Gordon, Kirk Heinrich, all these guys that, were just fantastic. Taj Gibson, Carlos Boozer, who could forget those guys, obviously. So when they, those handful of years, those 3 or 4, however many years it was, where they had those guys when they were really good and were a top 3 team in basketball for a handful of years, with those exceptions, for as long as I can remember, the Chicago Bulls have been not horrible and not good. They have been mediocre to below average. Now, anybody who knows me, anybody who knows anything about how I am in terms of my philosophy for how professional teams should operate, knows that I am really hot or really cold. I hate when a team is lukewarm. I hate it. Now, sometimes you have to be lukewarm, right? Now, if you're lukewarm with a direction of being hot, then fine. Fine by me, that's all good. But if you are just perennially lukewarm every year and nothing else happens, it drives me up a wall. And what I mean by lukewarm is when you are really hot, let's say, like the Boston Celtics right now. The Boston Celtics have pretty much gone all in at this point. They've traded draft picks. They don't have a lot of other assets that they could trade. They don't have any great young players coming up the pipeline like a Jason Tatum or a Jaylen Brown they had a few years ago, right? Obviously, they still have them, but now they're all-stars. They have reached as much of their potential as they're going to reach at this point, as far as I can see. I mean, I don't see Tatum averaging any more than 30 points a night for the rest of his career. I mean, that's probably about where he's going to be unless he turns into a player that none of us have ever seen before. And then Jaylen Brown, he gets better every year, but as a number 2 option, I don't know how much better he could be than he is right now. 26 or 27 points a night, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, a pretty stout defender, although he does get lost at times in terms of, being a help defender or an off-ball defender, but I digress. The point is, they don't have a lot of guys coming up the pipeline like that right now. They don't have any coming up the pipeline like that right now. They have hit their window. Their window is right now. And they are hot. They are all in. They're one of the best teams in basketball. We know. All right? Golden State Warriors, obviously. Now, their reign of terror, not reign of terror, it's been really fun, honestly. But their reign of being one of the top teams in basketball, with the exception of a couple of years, has been, a decade long. Almost at this point, 8 years-ish. So that's a actually more sustained run for a lot of teams than I've seen, with maybe the exception of the San Antonio Spurs, even the Miami Heat with LeBron, Wade, Bosh, all these guys, they only had a 4-year window. That was their window until LeBron left and then Bosh left. So it was just, they had a very short window. Some teams don't even get that much. They don't even get that much of a window. The Raptors had 1 year. One. That's all they had. And they made the best of it. They got a championship, right? But the point is, those you could see, the Raptors trading for Kawhi Leonard. They're all in. They're going for it. Or like what the Pacers are doing right now. They have traded away most of their all-stars. They now have guys on their team that are really good if you're Tyrese Halliburton, and then good like Miles Turner, good like Buddy Hield, and then you got a spattering of other really good young up-and-coming players that may be able to take the reins at some point. But you know where they're heading. They are rebuilding at the trade deadline this year, for the NBA trade deadline, which I'm looking to do something similar to what I did last year, by the way, so keep an eye out for that. At the trade deadline this year, I'm sure they're going to be shopping more. They're going to be getting rid of more of their players. They're probably going to try to trade Buddy Hield, Miles Turner, guys like that are still eating up a lot of money because they are very ice cold. They are rebuilding. They know they are not going to win a championship. They're not even pretending to try and compete for a championship. Or a team like the Detroit Pistons, who they're not competing for a championship, so they are selling their assets. They're trying to get young players. They are doing what they need to do. Unlike those teams that are either really hot or really cold, the Bulls have pretty much been the 8 seed in the playoffs, the 7 seed in the playoffs, the 10 seed, the 11 seed. They have been really right in the playoff conversation pretty much every year for as long as I can remember. And, some years are a little bit better, a little bit worse than others. A few years ago, they had the 4th pick in the draft because they were a little worse than they usually are. Or last year, they were the 4th, 5th, whatever seed in the playoffs. They were a little bit better than they usually are. You have a little bit of, one standard deviation to the right or left some years. But pretty much that team has just been mediocre for years and years. They were mediocre when they had Jimmy Butler, and then they made that trade to try and be, a young rebuilding team. Now, is it the Bulls' fault that Zach LaVine turned out to be a stud? No, it's actually a really good thing because you have a guy that you might be able to build around. But the Bulls have just been for decades at this point. And it infuriates me, and I just don't understand why the Bulls won't just pull the gosh dang plug at this point. Last year, they acted like a team that went all in. You got DeMar DeRozan, you signed Lonzo Ball, you already have Zach LaVine, you traded for Nikola Vucevic, and yet they still stink. They still stink. At this point, whatever the vision is of the Bulls GM and the president and the owner, it's not working. It's not working. I know this is hard to hear if you're a Bulls fan. I get it. I know. Kenny's going to be mad. I understand. But it's not working. And it hasn't worked for 20 years. Whatever plan you think you have, whatever vision you have for a championship team, it is not working. The Celtics. Look at the Celtics. Look at the Warriors. Look at teams like that. Heck, they may not be a championship team, but look at the Utah Jazz right now. They had 2 stud all-stars on their team, traded them both away, and they're about as good as they were with them than they are without them, or they're about as good without them as they were with them at this point. Because they know that to build and rebuild a team, you have to have good young players, draft picks, and guys that are willing to do what needs to be done to win a championship. You have to. The Celtics' 2 best players were drafted by them. And then they surrounded those guys with other key players that they needed to win a championship. And by the way, their defensive player of the year, point guard, was also drafted by them. And their stud all defensive team center, Robert Williams, who's making his debut tonight, and I'm very excited to see how that goes later on when I'm done with this. He was also drafted by the team. Grant Williams, a fantastic role player, he was drafted by the team. So you see the pattern, right? You can't just expect these free agents to come in and not have any draft capital around them to do anything with. Now, you had the 4th pick in the draft a couple years ago. What'd you do? You got Patrick Williams. No bueno, no bueno. He has not worked out even one iota for the Bulls. It does not look like he is going to be the answer for them. So, for the Bulls, it's just sad. I don't understand why you don't pull the plug. They've been trading away draft capital at this point. Trading away all that, Wendell Carter, by the way, kind of fits the bill as to what you might need if you're a rebuilding team. A nice, solid, young player to rebuild around, and now he's doing great out in Orlando. That's another team that you can at least see the vision. I mean, a few years ago, it just felt like they were kind of sitting there going, how many 7-footers can we put on the court at one time? But now, there's only a few 7-footers on the court at one time. So, they're improving, right? But all jokes aside, I just don't see where the Bulls are going right now. Now, I know injuries are playing a huge part in it. Obviously, Zach LaVine has had a lot of injury troubles. DeMar DeRozan has had his injury troubles. Lonzo Ball hasn't played in, I think, almost a year at this point with his injuries and him dealing with all of his ailments. So, and then, obviously a spattering of other injuries as well that don't help. So that plays a part in it for sure. But I think if you're going to go all in, part of having a championship roster is having guys that are reliable. And, you've got DeMar DeRozan, who's been pretty reliable health-wise over his career. But the other guys that you've surrounded him with, in Zach LaVine, in Lonzo Ball, in Nikola Vucevic, these guys have not shown that kind of consistency throughout their career in terms of staying healthy all the time. And so when you have that, it's going to be a lot more difficult to win a championship because one twisted ankle and you're toast. Your whole championship dreams go up in smoke. Now, I'm not saying that, those guys aren't helpful on a championship team. Like, you put Zach LaVine on the Warriors right now, or you put Zach LaVine on the Celtics right now, or God forbid you put him on the Bucks right now, and that would really, really, really do some damage for sure. He's a great player. But as the number one guy, and I think arguably you could say either DeRozan or LaVine is your number one guy right now, that's not going to do it. I mean, DeMar DeRozan, a fantastic player, but he proved in Toronto. If he's your number one guy, that's not going to be good enough. It's not going to be. Zach LaVine can't do it by himself. So I just think that you should either really trade for an absolute stud and just get it rolling and try and go all in for the next couple of years and just go for it. Or, dude, sell the pack. Sell it all. Maybe keep one of those guys. If you feel like keeping Zach LaVine, keep Zach LaVine. But at this point, I think he's 28, 29? He's not getting younger. That athleticism that he's relied on over the last, 10 years is going to go away. Especially with all the lower body injuries that he's had. Patrick Williams is not your solution. I think you got to rebuild through the draft. You got to if you're Chicago. And I don't think they're interested in doing that right now. And I don't understand why. I really just don't understand why. Because I think unless you want to continue to get the 13th or 18th pick or whatever in the draft every year and not have a chance to get a guy that's going to alter the future of your franchise, then I just don't think that the Bulls are going to even eventually win a championship. You're just going to be stuck in purgatory. You're not in heaven. You're not in hell. You're in purgatory. You're going to be stuck there until God knows when. So, Chicago, if you can hear me, which I don't know why you would, but if you can, really think about it. Think about the fact that you have gone all in, and 2 years in a row, it's been injuries that have crippled you. Now listen, 1 year injuries crippling you, not anything to sneeze at. You can run it back next year and see what you have. But at a certain point, if those same people or those same injuries keep being a problem, you're going to have to sit back and say, I think us going all in has failed. We have to try and salvage this situation the best we can. Sell them for parts. See what we can get back, and try and figure something else out and try again in a couple of years. The Bulls are spending a crazy amount of money on their team right now. I know they're paying the luxury tax to have what? 10 wins? 11 wins on the season right now? The Celtics have 22. Heck, the Warriors, who everybody's saying is they're struggling so mightily. Oh no, they're awful this year. They're never going to win a championship. They have like 15 wins. So, again, Chicago, if you can hear me, pull the plug. I'm sorry. I love the players you have. I do. But when Alex Caruso is your second best player, that's not good enough, man. That just isn't good enough. Pull the plug. Build through the draft. Get some top 5 picks. Build with young guys. Do what the Rockets are doing. Do what the Spurs are doing. Do what the Pistons are doing. Just go for it, man. Be awful for more than just this year and then go, whoop, we're going to trade our draft picks for a borderline all-star and see if he can. No. You've done that like 3 times already. Vucevic wasn't the answer. Upgrading. I'm not even putting it in quotes. I don't even know if it's an upgrade. From Wendell Carter to Vucevic. That didn't work. Bringing in DeMar DeRozan. That didn't work. Zach LaVine. Great player. Hasn't brought you anything. It hasn't. Sorry. Lonzo Ball. God bless him. When he's on the court, he's fantastic. But the guy can't stay on the court. Just pull the plug. Pull the plug, Chicago. I don't really see another option at this point. Unless you got some magic fairy dust that you're going to sprinkle and trade for Kevin Durant or something. Like, no. Pull the plug, Chicago. Pull the plug. Hey guys, me again. Thank you so much for watching one of my clips from the Lopes Goes Last podcast. These clips are so much fun to do. I absolutely love making them and I absolutely love doing them. And this podcast is my baby. So I really want this thing to grow and I really want it to succeed. So if you did like what you see, please subscribe. Also hit that bell notification so you never miss any one of my episodes or one of my clips like this one. And please do also like and share these videos with your friends and your family so that we can make this thing grow as fast as possible. And I wanted to thank you again so much. And I hope you guys enjoyed the video and have a great rest of your day.